Hello, it's Kat Bambini or Kirsten Bean, depending on who knows me, from Peace Punk Production. And today I'm going to talk about overt versus covert narcissists. I made another video earlier, and I actually confused them myself. And this is somebody with a lot of education on narcissists. I mean, a lot. So it's very easy to get confused by the types of narcissists, but it's very important to know about them and to know about overt versus covert, because one of them is way more blatant and in your face. The other one is easier to get swindled by. Now, they both have the same issues if they have narcissistic personality disorder. They like to confuse you, they like to use shame and blame, they have a low self-esteem, they're very grandiose once you get closer to their self, where they're always going to have a deflection. If you like them too much, they're going to be mad at you. They don't like you to get too close. They have a strong filter against you discovering that they have a false self, and they put their full-time energy into maintaining this false self, which is very exhausting for them. They tend to be very grumpy, when you get close to them. They have a lot of angst. They can present like they're kind, so the covert, and this is why it's confusing, covert is the more subtle kind. So they're more secretive, covert. They're more hidden. Covert is not the one that you would think typically. When you think of a narcissist, you think of, I'm not gonna say who, but you think of a certain person, right? That's like in the public spotlight, always just pretending like they know everything, literally, like even when it comes to say Black Lives Matter, pretending that they know everything, right? Pretending that they know everything, making up speeches, just always in their false self, and you always wonder, it's like the emperor, it's the emperor's new clothes when the emperor's walking around naked, and everybody's like, seriously, dude, we're dealing with a overt narcissist here. How did this person get in charge? Well, how did they get in charge? Enablers, flying monkeys, people around them that are supporting and endorsing them. And so this person gets used. They have a disorder, they're disabled, they're being used. So they're sitting there, you're making fun of them, you're pointing out their weakness and disability, they're actually being used. They are sick. So the overt is the type that you would think of, right, when you think of leadership, people who are just really not doing a good job, that are just self-obsessed, shaming and blaming, not really thinking about everybody involved. They only think about themselves. The only experience they have is their own, and that's what's so frustrating, because there are so many different types of people in this world. So they're not really into equality, because they think they're different. So they're always gonna think they're above. So they're not gonna. It's good. There's always gonna be a kind of caste system issue, right? Some issue where they're above, you're below. That is an overt narcissist. A covert narcissist, which I totally confused the two last time, made a great video. Oh my god, it was amazing, but I have to let it go because it wasn't accurate. I was confusing the two. But I'm going to say that because narcissists do not like to make mistakes. They will not admit that they make mistakes. I didn't have to admit that to you. I didn't have to say that I even had another video. I didn't have to say anything. But it's good to admit your mistakes. You don't have to. I'm just pulling that one out there. I don't have to, but I'm just, as an example, they don't like to admit mistakes. They want to be right all the time. So you'll find constantly everything you say when you're talking to a narcissist, covert or overt. With overt, more subtle. They might be shy. Covert. Covert is gonna be more shy. They're gonna be hanging out in the back of the crowd. They're gonna spot you out, sidle up to you, be your best buddy and advocate, learn everything about you, seem very martyr-like, very nice guy or nice girl. And that's what's gonna trick you in the end. That's where you're gonna get so disappointed, because you're gonna find out that it wasn't real. They're not really humble. They're not really shy. They might be shy, but they're not shy as far as manipulating you, shaming and blaming you, causing confusion, taking credit for things, putting you down, involving in a smear campaign, having enablers around them that support and endorse their bad behavior. And why do they do this? A lot of times narcissists are charismatic, they may be beautiful, they may have some education, they may have gone through school, maybe they have an MBA, maybe they're in a leadership position, maybe they're a CEO, so people look up to them and they want this person to be in charge. So they're putting them in charge and they're letting them take accountability and responsibility for everything, right? I had this problem. I had one, and I would put them in charge of everything. So where's my accountability in that? My accountability was that I enabled, and I did not realize that this person had a disorder that I was supporting. and endorsing, by being in a situation where I was allowing them to get away with this behavior. And of course it wasn't my fault. Of course I didn't cause it. Of course it took me years to figure it out. But once I did, I got out because I cared about the person and loved them. And I want them to get better. And so that was my main MO actually in starting this channel, to be honest, was I loved somebody very much and definitely felt like they had this issue and I did it all wrong. And whether or not they have the issue is up to them to decide, and I don't talk about them anymore, you know, but I mentioned that just to say I did care for somebody once who seemed to present with these behaviors and did a lot of things to hurt me, which was like right out of the textbook of what a narcissist would do. I read a book by Shahida Arabi, and she just basically had a checklist that was everything I was experiencing. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is insane. I cannot believe it. But I actually had a manual finally, and I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. Because you think you're crazy, especially with the covert type, because they're not overt. They're not, you're reading about narcissists and you're like, okay, they're the center of attention. They're probably a rock star. They probably want to be always important. They probably think that they're the best. And like a covert is going to be more subtle. They're really going to be harder to figure out for that reason, because they might have social anxiety. They might have a hard time fitting into crowds. They may never go to crowds. They may not be popular with anybody. They may not have any friends. They may not even be close with their family. You know, the overt type seem to have a problem because they tend to have an entourage around them of family, friends, people that will support and endorse and encourage their behavior no matter what. Covert types can have this too, you know, especially if they're sensitive and shy. They can have a lot of people that are like, they would never do that. And I've had this experience where it's like, since I'm blatant, put myself out there, and I've had to, it's easier for people to point the finger and be like, well, she's a narcissist, she's this, she's that. And it's like, of course, if you're putting yourself in the public eye, people can do that. They're gonna do that. And you have to take that risk. It's just what I had to do. But it's so easy to do, right? So easy to do, and so easy to make up lies or manipulations about somebody who's actually putting themselves out there and making mistakes, which you have to do if you're in the public eye. You make mistakes and you do things, especially if you're an artist, because you're putting yourself out there. Like every day I put poems and lip syncing out. I make a lot of mistakes, oh my God, and I totally don't like making them. I don't like making mistakes, but I have to, and that's how you get better at what you're doing. And when I was with people who were narcissistic, if I made a mistake, that was the end of the world. They would shame me, put me down, because what happened was they were dependent on how other people saw me, and so I was filling a role for them that made it so that other people would treat them a certain way because I was in their life. And so when they didn't have that, they got really anxious, and they would try to hurt me because I did something that was not normal to them. But yet they were doing all sorts of things that were not normal to me constantly. And I had to start making a list, and I had to start seeing counselors and domestic violence organizations, and 5 in the end. And it just really became a huge issue because that was so immersed, and it was happening with many people. It wasn't just one, unfortunately, because I am an empath, but I presented like a prima donna because I was definitely protecting myself, and I wouldn't let people in for good reason, and it turned out that the people that I had let in were not the people I should be trusting. And so it's just really, really hard to pull away, and that's why I started this channel, because I really cared about those people, but I couldn't be close to them, and so I knew they watched this, and I was trying to get help, but nobody would listen to me because it was there was a smear campaign going on. So I had to figure that out after I got well enough, you know, because I was very sick after being abused, and I was already a disabled woman. You know, I have PTSD, and this just exacerbated it. It's complex PTSD now to the point of whoa. And of course that's newer in the manual. There's a lot of doctors doing research on complex PTSD, but I don't think it's been added to the DSM, so I can't even technically talk about it. So I just say PTSD, although there's tons of research to support that. And they pick people like me on purpose. And it's because you already have a weakness, you're already looking for help outside of you. And so you're definitely more susceptible to a covert or overt narcissist if you have an issue and you have a disability or you have something that's going to make you want to look outside of you for help from people. And so be very careful about that. You're just fine the way you are. You may not be just the same as everybody else, but you're okay. You don't need somebody else to tell you what to do, where to go, what to dress like, how to eat, anything. I thought I did have to have that, and so that's my part, right? And I encouraged that from a covert narcissist. And the covert narcissists are very hard to spot because they, like I said, seem very shy. But once you get close to them, you find that everything is a push away. They don't let you get close to them. They don't like you liking them or giving them compliments because they don't like themselves. And so they're always going to put you down. That means they can't lift you up either. And I had a part in the last one that I really want to keep. I have my earbud in. Like I said, there's always something wrong in these videos on purpose. Be yourself, man, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna be this perfect person sitting here like some sort of news anchor, always like on point. I'm always gonna have human issues. I'm gonna be human. And so that's Peace Punk Production. Just be human, but be peaceful. We're learning peace, starting with narcissism. I'm so glad you're here. I forgot to say that. I should always say that in the beginning. You're welcome to comment below. Most people don't comment. I think they get what they can out of the video and then they move on. But then I find when I stop doing the videos, I get comments from people saying, don't stop. So I encourage you to comment and subscribe just so that I can get out to more people, because I will not be able to continue this for much longer if I don't get more support. I have been getting a lot of support though, so it's not your fault. It's just that there may be not enough need for it. And so it could have been a temporary thing that I did to help a few people, and that's totally fine. I will not do it if there's no need for it, but right now there's a need. And I was gonna add, narcissists are disabled. And so, imagine a world where they could get help and they could heal. And they're not gonna feel empathy, because that's one of the diagnoses is that they don't feel empathy, and that's a broken part of them. And that you always feel compassion for somebody who cannot feel empathy, okay? But that doesn't mean you wanna get close to them. You definitely wanna keep a buffer between you and a narcissist, because you find out somebody doesn't have empathy, it is soul destroying. It is soul destroying. To find out that somebody who is pretending that they are close to you has no empathy for you or anything that you did, and everything was a lie. I dealt with that. I've dealt with it multiple times, and it is devastating. It was enough that I was suicidal. I wanted to die. And then to have all your support and your groups pulled away from you because there are misinformation and lies being spread about you that you never thought that your partner would do. And you're out there shouting about what they did, and so it's easier for everybody to point at you like, oh my God, she's this. And then, so what I've had to do is just be like, okay, I'm gonna clean my side of the street. I'm sorry for everything I did when I was trying to educate on narcissism. And then just keep educating and do it in a better way, do it in a better way that's not hurting people. My ultimate goal is that everybody can get support in us functioning as a society, especially during this pandemic. We don't want narcissism. We don't want people acting narcissistically. We don't want narcissists to not get treatment. We want them to stop feeling stigmatized. So we need to stop saying that they're bad, evil, need to die. I do not agree with anybody on YouTube who is saying, I saw somebody who had all narcissists should be on tombstone, on a grave. I was like, that is the worst thing I've ever seen. It's so not Jesus. And I do love Jesus. I'm a nihilist, existentialist, Taoist, but I love Jesus. And I don't think anybody should be wishing anybody death. That's just like the narcissist. You are just like the narcissist if you're doing that. You want to be just like the narcissist? Wish them dead and wish for them to never get better, right? We don't want to be like that. The reason that we got hurt by the narcissist, a lot of us here, is because we're empathetic. We're compassionate. We care about people. And that's how they take advantage of you. They manipulate you because, I don't know, and that's the thing that I think it's the thing that makes everybody upset when they get hurt by one, because they're like, how could you prey on they don't have empathy. Can I get that through to you? They do not have empathy. They don't have empathy. They don't care. They just look at it as a snack. It's like a flower. You pick a flower, it's beautiful, you pick it, it dies. That's what they're doing. The pretty thing, pick it. Take advantage of it. They don't care if you die. They don't care about this. That doesn't mean that you should sit around being like they should die, because then you're just the same as them. You literally are just the same as them. You're pointing them out, you're saying they should die. It's okay if you have those feelings. When I read that book, Why Does He Do That by Lundy, which I always recommend for any woman or man dealing with aggressive, abusive people that are male, and for women, The Abused Woman by Barbara Ingalls, I believe, or just anything by Shahida Arabi for narcissism. What was I gonna say? Oh, if you're feeling like I want to kill somebody, like, and you're a normal person, you're not a person that's a serial killer, get away from that person. That's what he was saying. He said it's a normal reaction when you're being threatened or abused, or you're in a situation where you feel like you can't fix the situation, is to be like, I want to kill that person. So don't be worried or think you're a narcissist if you're having those thoughts or suicidal thoughts, because those are very normal when you're dealing with extreme amounts of abuse, especially I would think from a covert narcissist, because it's so subtle, you don't know what's going on. You're like, what are you doing? What is going on here? And every time you try to confront them, they're like, I don't do anything. I'm just normal. You're just crazy. And they actually spend a lot of time making you out to be a crazy person with their friends, with their family, with everybody, so that when you finally lose your shit and leave, and I had one tell me, when you leave, I'm going to tell girls that you were crazy and that's how I'm going to get laid. And I was like, I felt like I was talking to a 5-year-old, because it's like I had to give him a moral. I'm like, excuse me? But I should have been prepared. I had no idea. I still thought that there was empathy, sweetness, kindness, and now I know beyond the shadow of a doubt there's no way that stuff is ever going to change unless there are societal consequences for what this person is doing, and they're never going to get them because they have too many enablers, flying monkeys, anything. So all they want is to get me back so that they can continue to manipulate and abuse me and take advantage of the fact that I love them deeply and know who they are inside, right? Because I've seen their inner child. So it's not going to happen to me. I continue to make this channel. I remember I was trying to make a truce where I was like, okay, I'll talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, but I just don't think there's a need for it as much as there's a need to talk about narcissism, and narcissism affects people with PTSD, so I'll talk about both here. But I do think that narcissists need to we need to stop all the hatred, because it's not helping them. It's just making them think that they're different and above people, and they want to rip off and swindle empathetic people, because empathetic people are being like, well, you need to die, because they're so hurt by them, right? Or empathetic people are being like, oh, we love you, we're gonna give you a million chances, we're gonna let you take advantage, which is what most of us do, and we don't wanna call them out, we don't wanna accept people who are like this, and you still have a hard time because you have a huge heart. Well, you need to stop that. They need boundaries, they need consequences. They can deal with their own shame, guilt, and fear. Both covert and overt narcissists, like I said, they love to blame and shame. They will blame and shame you. They love to put you down. They nag, N-E-G, nagging, subtly putting you down every day to make you feel like you're not enough and you're off balance and you need them for your support. They start to replace your higher self with them. They start to be the person that you go to. It's like Stockholm Syndrome. They're putting you down so much that you start to get dependent on them. And then you have to get yourself out. You develop cognitive dissonance. And they do this, it's a mind control. They're using coercive control. You're an easy victim because you're nice, you're empathetic, you're high achieving, you want to help everybody, you care about other people, maybe you're not paying too much attention. And so they come in and they just reprogram your entire everything. And then by the time you figure out what's going on, you can't point them out because they're too shy, they're too sensitive, they're too sweet. Nobody would ever think they were like that. They may grow plants, they may, they may like animals. Be careful though. How do they treat animals? Are they kind to them or are they aggressive? Be very careful. And so when you see those things and you're seeing them in private and nobody else is seeing them and you think that you're the only one dealing with it, make a list, contact an organization. You're not alone. Trust your intuition. They do not want you to trust your intuition. So that's why I think they're like Lucifer in that way. And even though I don't really, sometimes I do believe in evil because I've had to deal with these people, but they need to stop their evil crack pipe. And you need to help them by not supporting their behavior and knowing about it and knowing that there can be the types that get to you without being so blatant. So be careful about who you spend time with. Be careful about being alone with new people, especially if you're a woman. And be careful about flattery. And be careful about people that ask a lot of questions about you and then start blaming you, shaming you, putting you down, anything like that. Any sort of gaslighting at all, just no. If they're starting to ask you questions, especially if you're a woman, and then they say, like, that's not real and it's your reality. No, dude, that's not okay. So many women are just so polite about this. We're like, oh, okay, maybe that's not my reality. And then we change our whole reality and we go crazy, and then they call us crazy. We need to stop that because it's not working for us. You know, it's like, we're not crazy. We see what's happening, and we may be way more empathetic and sensitive, and that's why we're noticing it. So let's talk to each other about it and overcome it. But to endorse or support these people by turning a blind eye or having a whole family system or a work system support them. I've had them at work, you know, where you just can't succeed and you can't do your job because they're always taking credit for it and putting you down in front of other people all the time. And so the whole team is against you, and you just don't. I've had this happen where I'm just like, okay, the whole team's against me because of one person spreading lies about my behavior. And I can't do anything about it. I didn't even know about it until I started to learn about narcissists. So this stuff does happen, and it happens at work. I took classes on it where we were learning about these behaviors, personalities, because they're causing such a problem in corporate settings that it was actually in my organizational behavior handbook. So it's an issue that it just pays to know about it. It pays to be educated. It pays to know the difference between covert and overt, which I had to learn today myself, obviously, because I was mixing the two up. My God. But yeah, so covert is more like the martyr type, more covert, hidden, right? Overt is more blatant, overtly narcissistic, in your face. The kind you probably don't want to be around. They're like a diva, right? They're just like, just so much about themselves that you can't even take it. But yeah, I hope I said enough about also just supporting that narcissism is a disorder and it's a stigma, and the less it's stigmatized, the more narcissists will get help for it. So you can help them in that way too, by learning about it and helping the stigma to go away, so that they don't feel like they need to continue manipulating and taking advantage of people, because it's so hard to admit that they have this disorder. Who wants to admit that? I have narcissism. Oh my God, would you like to admit that as your disorder? I mean, even post-traumatic stress disorder is hard for me, right, to admit. I have, because I don't want to be judged or shamed or have people put me down or start to blame that for my work or anything else, right? You don't want to admit it. Like anything that says, do you have a disability? I don't want to fill out, because I don't want to be like the Holocaust where suddenly people are getting hauled off because they have a disability, and we've got this Gattaca type situation where only the top of the line people are accepted. So narcissists need help. They need you to call out their behavior in groups, in society. Don't do it alone. If you do it alone, expect resistance and opposition. They don't like being told no, even if they're covert. And then expect manipulation, because they're like 5-year-olds. They're literally 5-year-olds. So they are, you can't explain to a 5-year-old why they shouldn't break their toy or throw something or manipulate you or use you as a sex object or anything else. But you can take away their toys. And you can regulate their behavior kindly, and you can teach them that they need to do certain things in order to get what they need in society, and then enough people can talk about them and what they're doing that they cannot take another victim, because they will have to be out about it. So, or you can just change your behavior and start acting with love and remove yourself from the situation, and not have to be a mother or a police officer or any of these other things with your lovers. That's totally an option. You shouldn't have to deal with that. It's an extra baggage. And don't feel sorry for them. Just have empathy, which they don't. Have empathy that they can't have empathy. But don't try to fix them. Just take care of yourself. And yeah, so I feel like there's more to say on this topic. If you have any questions, ask, please. But there's a lot out there that you can look up too, covert versus overt. That's just 2 types. There's other types too. They're all different. They're all unique. There's not just one narcissist, right? Every human being is unique. And so how people present with the disorder is different. But the general things that they both have in common, overt and covert, are the shaming and blaming, causing confusion all the time. You can't confront them. Over sense of self-importance, grandiose, you know, probably always comparing. They may be materialistic, always comparing themselves to other people, and like, where are you going to fit in that? They want materialism over you, so you're not going to fit, right? You're just an accessory. You're supply to both. They use you as supply. They find empathetic people to manipulate, and they don't seek help either. They don't know they have a problem. They won't admit they have a problem. Maybe they've known that they've had a hard time getting through life, but they think that they've gotten through life with taking advantage of people. They don't have to follow the rules other people follow, so they're not going to stop unless they have to. And so the more people know about it, the better. And the more they know about it themselves, the better. The more they know what's in it for a narcissist. I mean, they're never going to feel empathy, right? Unless they can. Can they change? I don't know. You tell me, narcissist. Can you change? Can you feel empathy? Because everybody says you can't. They say that you cannot change. They say you cannot get better. And they say that you should die. I don't agree with that. But your actions have made people feel like this. So, you know, think about it, narcissists and non-narcissists. How can we all get along better? Peace, love, metal, love, peace, and aloha. Someday I'll have that ironed out. But yeah, I'm a dork. Narcissists don't like dorks, so I have no problem being a dork here. You can be a dork, and just be yourself. They don't like that. You cannot be your true self around a narcissist. They don't like that. They can't be them true self, so they're going to try to tear it down. So the more you're your true self, the more you're repellent to a narcissist. It's true.